Hello, Giants, and wake up. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. We have a special guest with us today, Clifford Starks, and just wanted to tell you a little bit about Clifford. And so, Clifford, he's a transformational coach. He was a UFC fighter and wrote this lovely book right here called Awaken the Superhero Within You. In you. And I have loved this book. I tell you, this put like that spark and that fire back within me that I had been missing and that I really wanted to find again. And so thank you for that. And I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that it put a spark in you. That means a lot to me. And I was a UFC fighter, and now I hold little kids' toys. I have two kids, a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And so I made a little bit of a transition into dad and coach. And I said there was always a coach. There was always a coach in me, as I went through my process. Everyone is looking to do the very best on their journey, and they just need the right tools and the right resources. And so I like helping people find the right tools and the resources that they need to move forward and crush it in their life.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you're an excellent father. I've seen you on Zoom calls, and you have your baby in your arms, and you have them right with you. They're with you, and you're a very present father and a good husband, and just a definite role model for everyone that comes in contact with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I really, that warms my heart. I do the best that I can. I slip up from time to time, just like everybody, and I get back up, and we do it again. We get better each time we go along. Me and my wife will be married for 15 years in March, actually.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, March 30th. Yeah.
Wow, 15 years.
A lot of learning experiences there.
Yes, there is.
And some of them are in that book too.
Yes, they are, but they're wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good book. I've quite enjoyed it, and really coming in. Before we dive in, just if you want to tell me a little bit about your story, Ryan the Lion's in the house, and nice giant himself. Yes, one of the founders of the group too. Rocket Giants.
Nice.
Yeah, so in the back of it says you've were a former fat kid to becoming the transformational coach. Well, take me from way back, what got you started, and what took you onto the journey of where you knew that you wanted to be a UFC fighter?
Yeah, so my process really, you can only put one foot in front of the other. So I say this I didn't know that I was gonna go step inside of a cage at one time. When I was overweight, I remember seeing myself in a double mirror for the first time. And we were at a hotel, and that's why I could see the double mirror. So I could see the front of me and the back of me. And that's when I realized, holy crap, that's what they do to women when they're getting ready to get married. They show 3 and 4 mirrors so that they can get really let's get them feeling real self-conscious of themselves. That they can take care of this and get the very best dress. But seeing myself in a different angle made me realize I didn't like what I saw, and I wanted to change it. And so that's what I focused on doing. Was after I saw that, I'm like, I need something different, and I want to be something different. And so I work towards being that different thing. And just like anything, it starts off harder than we think it's going to be, because we look at it and go, I don't want this anymore. But our brains are used to being it.
Yeah. And really changing that whole consciousness around it. And so how did you step into being that? We talk a lot about being.
Yeah. You know, everything comes down with being able to see it and see it clearly. And I actually had a struggle because of the strength that I had. My strength was I could see a new reality when I wanted to see it.
Mm.
And I thought I'm not going to go into the minutia quite yet. I'm just going to say my process was easy enough. And the reason it was easy enough was because I could see the reality that I wanted to be, and I
Yeah.
just put in the reps to making that a reality. Now I will say there was one instance when I hit a bump, and that was because I was measuring myself. I was going on the scale daily, and I
Mm.
was getting frustrated because I was going on the scale every single day. And my mom actually talked to me about it. And she goes, son, if you take a cup of water out of a pool every week and you're looking at the pool every single day, you'd probably get really frustrated as
Yeah.
it's slowly happening. But if you turn away from the pool and you just let a cup of water come out of the pool every week and you just keep at it, you look around 3, 6 months and it looks like a different pool. And so I took
Mm.
that into consideration and I really focused on, all right, I'm just going to control my calories. I'm going to control
Yeah.
what I'm putting into my body. I'm going to control my ability to exercise and do my cardio. And I'm just going to keep to the grind. I'm not going to weigh myself. And it made the process a heck of a lot easier, a heck of a lot smoother.
Oh, I hear that. And I feel that. We
Yeah.
actually just talked about that beforehand where, I was stepping on the scale and I was stepping on the scale and I would get so frustrated because it wasn't changing, because
Hmm.
I wasn't changing. And so then it just kept giving that same results because that's what I was focused on. I was afraid of that thing. And so then that what you resist persists.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had an opportunity to work together, and I found you, and uh, you've just been the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
And one thing that I will say is sometimes our weaknesses are our strengths and our strengths are our weaknesses. You're very
yeah,
coachable and you listen closely. You put in the reps in the way that you can. And I say our strengths are our weaknesses because I'm the same way, the empath. So I love listening to people. Sometimes people are on my side and sometimes people aren't so much on my side. So I had to learn, like, all right,
yeah.
not this one, not this one, not this one. Listen to this one and this one and this one.
Yes. Putting those people around you, that structure, that who really support you and want to see you grow
Hmm.
and who
Yeah.
challenge you. That was in the book, is like those people, like who are you around? You want those people who add to the fire and add to that flame.
Yeah.
Ah, thank you,
100%.
Ryan. Yes. So I got an opportunity to work with you in The Power of Six, and heard part of your story about your coach when you wanted to go to the UFC. And if you would like, I would love for you to share that story
Yeah.
with our
Yeah.
audience.
So I told my coach, like, a very, very confident individual, coach, I want to fight in the UFC in less than a year. And
Yeah.
he's very expressive with his facial expressions. So I could kind of tell what he was thinking, but he didn't actually say anything, but he was judging the heck out of me. But it is what it is. And the next day, he sits me down and he goes, Cliff, no one gets there in less than a year. You're going to be fighting with the best of the best in the world. So it's not happening. And I listened to him and I respected him. He's gotten a lot of people in the UFC. So I said, all right. I go, coach, I totally get it. I respect your opinion, but I got to try. I
Yeah.
got to try. And he looks at me and goes, all right, let's see what you got.
Yeah.
So we got to work. We got to work. And I'll tell you, um, it went back to being that overweight kid.
Yeah.
Because day by day is kind of tough. But if you start chopping it up week by week, you'd be surprised what you can
Mm.
do. So in a 5-week period, Trevor was actually shocked at how much I was improving with only a little bit more than a month under my belt. And so he's like, wow, you're getting really good really fast. And the reason I was getting to where I was getting was because I know how to put in the reps in ways other people don't like putting in the reps, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So yeah, I kind of I double up on the reps, but I only double up on the reps because I know the body can go through the process. I've learned my body very kinesthetically. And so I went through the process. I understood the process. I
Yeah.
did the things that I needed to do. And it just started. It seems like magic to people, but it's not. Our bodies are magical. Our minds are magical. And when we practice something in the correct way and the correct order, we'll shock ourselves and we'll shock the world every single time. And so it felt good to know that my own coach was like, wow, maybe we
Whoa.
can make this a reality.
Yeah. Yeah. You said you put in like 5 times the work of like what a normal person would do.
Yeah.
Because you really got into that grind and you wanted and you saw yourself. So you started out with that vision of what it is you wanted, and then you put yourself to work.
And that's what it is. It's the vision. So people will look at something and say like, oh, he's working 5 times more. I can't work that much. When you have a vision in mind, the work isn't even there. It's just a piece of the puzzle. That's all it is. And when you can see that vision, all of a sudden the work is more than worth it. That's what gets people in trouble. Is they're like, all right, if I just work enough or if I just try enough, then I'll be satisfied that I put something in. And it's like, no, go all in, because that's the only way you win. If you don't go all in, you don't stretch. And if you don't stretch, you don't grow.
I love that. I love that. That is the truth. I've found that to be the truth is if you don't go all in, then you're not growing.
Yeah.
And when you're not growing, then you're stagnant. And when you're stagnant, then everything disrupts. Nicole says, always be ready. So when the opportunity comes, you could just go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You talk about like putting reminders, things on the fridge, things on your phone, reminders of your goal and changing your habits and changing who you are.
Yeah.
Just making yourself your environment, setting yourself up to win.
Yeah. I even go as far as saying you're not changing who you are, you're remembering who you are. Oof. All a person has to do is remember who they are. They're amazing.
Yeah. You always tell me there's greatness in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so tell me like, it took you 10 months instead of a year.
Actually, I'm not trying to sound cocky, but it was actually closer to 9 months. I thought it was 10 months too.
Oh, you get to be cocky.
I looked at the date. I'm like, oh crap, it was closer to 9 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we are miracles. 9 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So take me into that ring. What was your first fight like and stepping into that ring once you got there?
So absolutely one of the scariest things you could do. So sitting there, I'm like, holy crap, we made it to the big stage. So it's a combination of both fear and excitement. And the funny thing is the brain actually can't tell the difference between the two, which was kind of interesting. It lights up the same areas light up with fear or excitement. But we get to choose how we're going to see it, how we perceive it.
Yeah.
And so as I went through my process, of course, other things were happening in my life because that's what life likes to do. It just likes to make things unnecessarily difficult on the biggest set of the stage. So I'm like, all right, it is what it is. So I can focus. I'm just going to focus on the things that I can do. I'm going to focus what I can be. Yeah, Nicole, that's right. 9 months to grow a dream. I love that.
Yes.
So I'm sitting there really focusing in on the positives, and positive is an interesting word because positive means being completely optimistic, but also knowing that the reality is there too. So
Yeah.
sometimes people get themselves in trouble and they're like, I'm just going to be positive. Like, no, you need both. You need both.
Yeah.
And it's about respecting both because you
Mm.
are getting ready to go in with another trained killer who can hurt you
Yeah.
really, really bad.
Yeah.
And so, in knowing that, you use it to respect it, not to fear it, but you respect it and you lean
Mm.
into it, right?
Mm.
And you
Yeah.
go prepared. And so I went through my process. I went through my mental training. I went through my breathing, and they call me out, and I'm walking down. I'm getting ready to do my thing, and I'm doing my best to focus in on my breathing. I always call it control what you can control, because what can get people in trouble is they'll try and control these uncontrollable things, and it
Mm.
it it sends them down a rabbit hole. It sends them
Yeah.
down a rabbit hole completely. Go see mom, son. So I'm going through that process, and it's
You're good.
But mommy was here then.
of course she did. So I'm going through the process, and I get out there, and I'm so excited that I made it. It was a joy to be on that stage. I was just taking it in, absolutely. Hey, what's up, Nicholas? Just
Yes.
absolutely taking it all in.
Ah,
And here's the thing, because it's important to let the fight come. You
yeah.
can't force the fight. It would almost be like, now I know I can't speak as a woman, but what I
Yeah.
what I can say is from my wife's experience, there were times she wanted her baby out of her right away.
Oh
She's
yeah.
going through a process, she's going through her birthing process, and she just wanted it to be done. She wanted it to be finished. And I get it. If I was laying on my side on a regular basis, I don't think that would be very fun either.
No.
Uh,
Yeah.
the way fighting is much the same. As a fighter, you want to go. You want to just get out there and be done. Like, just go as hard as you can. And that's what I love and respect about the the name professional fighter, because
Mm.
you have to be a professional and you have to be primal all at the same time. You have to have
Mm.
both. So you have to fight, but you also have to know when to fight, because you're fighting a person who's also setting baits and traps, and they understand the game at the level that you understand the game. So you need to figure out how to play the game in the right way. And
Mm.
yeah, we went out. I ended up getting a victory, and I was so happy that I got my first victory in the UFC. It was an absolute
Oh.
it was huge. And the third round, he caught me with a good punch. He caught me with a
Mm.
good punch in the third round. And I remember, like, all right, I get to see who I am. Because when you're tested, you get to see who you are. So I can't
Yeah.
lose in the game called life. Sometimes I'm going to get knocked down, and sometimes I'm going to get my hand raised. And that day I just happened to be the one to get the hand raised.
Mm. I love that. I have so many good nuggets from just like that whole conversation and just being able to witness you and your process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it starts here. You talk about mind, body, and spirit, and really starting here, and also like the spirit and speaking to someone's soul.
100%. Well, I'll tell you, like, even as you went through your journey, and you understood yourself at newer and different levels, um, we go through a process, and sometimes we'll look back and go like, wow, I've learned so much along the way.
Yeah.
And I always say, you've always been so much. You've always been it. You've always had it.
Mm.
And when we can just remember, like, it's funny, as kids, we know this. We understand this.
Yeah.
And it's important. It's important, like, because there's an internal and an external role too. As a father, if I was a very let me put my thumb over you father, and you're not going to breathe, and you're going to do things my way, and I'm going to stuff you, and that's not a healthy way to live. That's
No.
not a healthy way to live. And so I would essentially be stuffing their brilliance. And so
Mm.
when I look at brilliance, it's brilliance is being able to be equal in dance partners. My kids are equal to me, and I'm equal to them.
Yeah.
What's important to me is important to me. What's important to them is important to them. And it's about respecting the context and respecting whatever those boundaries may be.
Yeah. Oof, I love that. Yeah. So you fought from 27, remind me again, how many years?
2007 to 2018.
Wow. So quite a few
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wait,
definitely.
2009. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that was too, because I graduated from ASU 2005, 2009. Yes.
Yeah. 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 So quite a while.
hmm
Yeah. Damn. I know. Yeah. So quite a ways. I respect that and love that journey. Oh, I had one question for you.
hmm
Um, I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while. I used to watch fights, and it was De La Hoya against, was it Mayweather?
That was a good fight. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And who did you go for?
I just wanted to see a good fight because I
Yeah,
like both of their styles.
yeah,
Um, I always like seeing an undefeated person go undefeated, though. I don't know. There's just something about I like that. So I
yeah,
kind of always rooted for Mayweather because I never wanted to see him lose. But there's also losing and coming back from adversity. I just like seeing undefeated people. I like seeing how people respond, and I want to see an undefeated person, and he happened to be one of those undefeated guys.
yeah. That was kind of off track, but
Yeah,
I was very, very curious.
yeah,
As
yeah.
my grandpa was a Golden Glove fighter, and back in the day, and so we would always order the pay-per-view and watch the fights together, and that was like one of my favorite things and favorite memories with him.
That's awesome. When did he fight?
um oh, it would have been like 69, and he
Okay.
also fought in like the Korean War and everything too, so it was when he was really I'm not sure even that's correct. I don't know the year.
Yeah, yeah.
But when
Well, I'm
he was
sure
younger.
he's got a
Yeah,
lot of insights in him, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. So you, after the UFC, you became a transformational coach and transitioned
No,
into that. No?
I actually screwed it up completely. Yeah, I did everything that was wrong. I'll tell you this. So you don't know what you're meant to do until you
Yeah.
go and try things.
Oh,
And I was a personal trainer. I was actually a personal trainer
oh,
before I
that's
was
right.
even a fighter.
Yeah.
And my transition was to go into Amazon FBA, which is fulfillment by Amazon. So basically, you're a third party seller for Amazon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you can make a lot of money doing that. I got a family that I got to feed. So let me back out and do this. And I was learning the lay of the land of Amazon, and I was doing decent. And I will tell you this: when there's enough eyeballs at the, so sometimes people will say like, all I need is traffic. All I need is traffic.
Yeah.
No, it's the game of business has so many fine details behind it that you don't see going into it. And so you're going to learn lessons and you're going to scrape your knees. So
Yes, you
I'm
are.
scraping my knees, going through Amazon FBA, like, I really don't like this. And the reason I say I don't like this, you got to give yourself time to try something because your
Mm,
mind's going to not like anything that's new. Because
yeah.
anything new, you're going to suck at first. Like I've never seen anything new that someone just did naturally. As they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're a natural football player. You're a natural. I don't think anyone's natural at anything, because there's people who are also natural at it that have been doing it longer than you.
Yeah.
And so eventually you'll get to realize how much you suck in everything that you do. Like eventually you're like, oh my goodness, I suck at anything that I start. Even the things that I'm naturally gifted at, I suck at first. And I just
Yeah.
get better from putting in the reps. And so I always give myself between 3 and 6 months of doing something before I hang it up. Now fighting, I gave myself like 2 fights for that. And the only reason being is because as a human being, I know we're not supposed to get punched in the head repeatedly. That's not a healthy thing. So you have to learn lessons really, really fast. Like really, really fast. You can't be like, all right, for 6 months I've been getting my head pounded in. I'm not good at this. So luckily I just happen to be a good fighter. Luckily I happen to be good, and I put in the reps to be even better. But fast forward, Amazon FBA, I was doing that. I was building out a website. I was learning the lay of the land, and I was having challenges. I'd do something right, and it felt like I was taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. I'm like, man, this is really hard for me. Like, I don't like it. Like, I really don't like it. So I had to finally cut ship on it. And I fell into a series of lucky situations, to be completely honest with you, because I knew I was going to understand this entrepreneurial game. I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew I wanted to take care of my family. And I knew I wasn't a person who is going to work a corporate job. It's just not in my nature.
Yeah.
Because I've tried it already, and I know some people, my personality, it can kind of rub the wrong way, because I'm going to do things the way that I want to do them. And I allow other people to do things the way they want to. But in the corporate world, usually too much red tape. Like, you got to do it this way in this sector. Like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So
yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. So just like, so I ended up getting super, super lucky. And I don't remember the saying. It's something about opportunity seems to come to the ones who work the hardest, or something along those lines. So one thing I've always been good at doing is creating relationships with people. I just have a love for people, so I create relationships with people, and I just happen to create the right relationships in the right time. So I ended up connecting with a business coach, and we spoke for like 4 hours. We just had a great conversation. And her name's Aisha Cogborn, absolute superstar of a woman.
Okay.
And so she started pitching me her service after our 4-hour conversation, just to tell me what she had.
Yeah.
And it's so much good stuff that I knew I couldn't afford it. Like, it's just like, when people are telling you enough things where you're like, and you're looking at it like, I already know where this is going. So, and I told her, I go, Aisha, I just want to be straight up with you. I don't think I'm going to be able to afford you. Like, I'm just going to be straight. And she goes, okay, well, let me finish telling you what you'll get, and then we'll just see from there. I go, all right, that doesn't hurt. I already said my piece.
Yeah.
So she's telling me her pricing. And I was right, by the way. Like, I was like, yep, I knew that. I knew I couldn't afford that. And so she goes, well, I actually need a personal trainer. So would you be interested in doing a trade? And from there, I'm like, well, yeah, I absolutely would be interested in doing a trade.
Yeah.
And so we ended up trading services. And on a business standpoint, she taught me a lot. She taught me a lot along the journey. And mostly, she taught me something that I couldn't see or explain to other people on what I was doing. Because the one thing that I do very, very well is I help people get disciplined, but I make it fun. Discipline shouldn't be this hard, unnecessary, oh my God, life sucks. Like, honestly, my UFC journey didn't suck. That was fun. I had a blast. And even my coach Trevor thinking like, how is this guy doing this? Because I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying
Yeah.
the process. I'm enjoying the whole thing as I'm going through it and learning the lessons along the way. And so that's what I do. I do my best to enjoy life. And the way you enjoy life is by listening to people and hearing people, really taking the time to listen and hear them. I had one woman, she ended up losing 110 pounds
Yes.
in
That's
about 10 months. It took her about 10 months.
wow.
And I knew one of her blocks was her dad would force her to train. He would force her to train.
Mm.
So she didn't want to train.
Yeah.
So she would avoid training with everything that every fiber of her being didn't want to do any training.
Yeah.
And so as I went through the process with her, I just gave her some healthy eating tips. And I said how amazing she would feel by eating this way. And so she just started doing that and feeling amazing, and one foot in front of the other, started creating momentum.
Yeah.
Because once we create momentum, the rest is history. It becomes an easy process after that. It's just like, well, what step will they take? I just give them two choices, right? And one choice is just more appetizing than the other. And so eventually they learn the lessons along the way, and they enjoyed the process and enjoyed the choice. Because I like pizza, I like cookies,
Yeah.
I like all of these things. And I'm not overweight anymore.
No.
So I just learned a process. That's all it was. I just learned a process on how to effectively eat these things and actually be in a position where I could eat them and still have a metabolism that rages on fire. It's a process just like anything else. And so I bring that all full circle to really say, ultimately, when we can envision what it is that we want, envision the reality that we want,
Yeah.
the action is secondary. It's always a secondary piece at the end of the day. And that's what I remind people is the actions are always secondary. It's just figuring out, really viscerally feeling that process and understanding that process and being willing to put in the reps, because you don't know where you're going to get. You're not going to know where you're going to get the luck, but it's going to come. It's going to come if you keep putting in the reps, just like my first business coach. But yeah, and from there, like, she told me the process of how to, because I had the transformational process down. I just didn't have the transactional process down. And honestly, I'm still getting better with the transactional process, because we all have our own form of blocks as we go through our process. And so my block happened to be a money block. I saw things a certain way, and I didn't see the reality that I thought I could see. She showed me a different way, showed me a different reality. And after that, I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. Let's see what we can do with this. And plus, everyone was calling me coach. And so I figured probably should get certified in this. So I ended up getting certified as a coach. And then I just went through the process, saying that's what made it super funny, because I'm like, oh crap, I've been coaching since I was a kid. Like, it's just the way my mind works. It really steps back and looks at the systems and processes that people have, because we're all trying. Like, that's one thing that I knew super young. I'm like, wait a minute, everyone's trying the best that they can with the knowledge that they have.
Yeah.
And once you start getting new knowledge, then you can get new processes. And once you have new processes, you can get new tools and new systems. And then your life can be something that it wasn't before.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. And you talk about like having that self-awareness of where you are. And then the action is a form of self-love.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's loving yourself completely and wholly to say, hey, this is what I want. Now I've got to take the actions. And I love how you also talk about thinking bigger. This gentleman right here, Nicholas T. Smith, wrote a book about the giants and the smalls, coming from that small mind. Like, he was a small, and he wondered how giants get giant and how they become bigger. And then he started questioning his thoughts. and
Yeah.
how can I think bigger and how I can do bigger. So you talk about helping people to think bigger.
Yeah. And what's crazy is not only because I always felt I was a big thinker when I was young. You know, there was always a big thinker in me because I had some traumatic events happen on my journey, and I just used it as fuel and energy. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna stretch as much as I can. But one thing that really hit me, um, I had a guy call me up, and I had trained with this guy for like 2 days,
Yeah.
and he calls me and he goes, "I'm high right now, and I think you're the only one who can help me."
Mm.
And just like I called myself a goofy ass because I'm gonna go after the biggest challenge I can. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's see what happens. But I let him know that I wasn't a therapist, I wasn't a psychiatrist. I'm just a
Yeah.
guy who's looking to help people. And he happened to ask for it. And I accepted. Now, I didn't realize how strong that drug was that he was addicted to.
Yeah.
And I ended up realizing later, I'm like, oh crap, this is a big hurdle. Like, this is going to be a big hurdle. And we started working together. And what I did was I took my philosophies as a personal trainer and I used them on him.
Yeah.
They worked. They worked. And so
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, it's all the same. Like, as I started understanding it and bringing things twofold, because Tony Robbins says it's 80% psychology, 20%
Yeah.
skill set. And I started understanding things better and better. So even as a personal trainer, I was more than just being a personal trainer. It's not just getting your body better. We
No.
actually hold trauma in our body. We
Yeah.
hold traumas in our body. And so
Yes.
I realized, like, holy crap, like, I hold a space for people. I hold a space for them to open up and tell me all of their insecurities and let them know they're just figments that they're creating in their head. They're
Mm.
just stories that they're holding onto. And
Yeah.
when they're ready to drop the story, which is very scary to do at first, they start taking responsibility on their own shit. And what was interesting, he tested me once. So he goes, I hope you're as nice as everybody says that you are. And I
Mm.
go, whoa, wait a minute. I go, look, I'm on your side no matter what. But if you're fucking up, I'm gonna call you on it. I'm gonna love you still, but I'm gonna call you on your shit. And I
Good.
go, and if you celebrate, and if you're doing well, we're gonna celebrate, and we're just gonna do those two things until we get you to where you're looking to go. But don't play the hey, it's okay, it's gonna be okay, you're perfectly fine. Sometimes people need a gut punch,
Yes.
a psychological gut punch, and it's
Wake
healthy
up.
for them. And
Mhm.
sometimes that gut punch is saying, I love you and I know you can do better. I love you and I know you can do better. Stop bullshitting yourself. Because you've heard
Yeah.
from enough people telling you, like, you're a loser, you're this is all you're capable of. It's a lie.
Yeah. Or you're okay. With
Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm just like, I like playing big, and so from giants to small, or giants to what's it called? Giants.
The giants and the smalls.
The giants and the smalls. The
Yeah.
giants and the smalls. Look, sometimes in our mind we can get small, but
Yeah.
the small can become giant. And I also say the giant can become small. So
Mhm.
remember, every day we wake up, we get a choice because one
Yeah.
day, even the big thinker can think small, and even the small thinker can think big, which means every day is a new day, and every day you get an opportunity. Which one are you going to choose?
Yeah. What hat are you putting on today? Who are you telling you what you're going to be?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And that we have an abundant world.
Yeah. Oh, so what I did want to say about that story, he
Yeah.
helped me see more of me. because I thought, oh, I'm just a personal trainer. I just help
Yeah.
get people's bodies better. I'm like, holy crap, no, it's it's philosophies and principles. The philosophies and principles that I live by. They're universal. They work in every state. Even if a high performer is looking to be a high performer. Yes, he did get clean.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And I'm sure that you completely changed his life.
Yeah. And it's crazy because it went both ways. You know, I changed his and he changed mine because he helped me see things that I didn't see before. Where I'm like, wait a minute, I can use this process on more than just the fitness area.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, like, oh wow, it's really leadership. It's a leadership process, and I didn't know it at the time. I like people living their best life, and I like people being their best. And so I always tweaked and adjusted and figured out like what worked for each person. And then eventually I realized, like, oh crap, there's a process here that I
Yeah.
can follow again and again and again, and it can work on anybody. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And you ask a lot of questions and really ask them, where they're at, where they're hung up. What are they thinking? And what are they feeding themselves?
Yeah. Well, what's so crazy about that is when I first became a personal trainer, I didn't realize you could get someone to their success too fast. Like I never thought that was possible. I thought they tell you what they want, then you get them there. So that's what I did. They told me what they wanted, and so I got them there. And then I realized, holy crap, you can get someone to their success too quickly. Like I did not know that was possible. And I learned to step back and really ask those questions to make sure they knew exactly what they were getting into as they were going through their process.
Oh yeah. They didn't quite catch up to that growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is interesting. It happened to me when I lost my weight so quickly because it's almost like our spirit's always whole, right? Our spirit's always 100%. It's the higher piece of us. But there's the mental aspect and the physical aspect, and they're going back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And you're always building them both. Like you're never done building one or the other. So I was mentally strong, but eventually my physical actually was beating my mental. And I was physically getting in better shape, but I mentally didn't see myself as being in better shape. When my body physically got to that state, I mentally had trouble imagining it. So my mental had to catch up to my physical. And it's this dance of figuring out how to keep them both strong consistently.
Yeah, because if you don't see where you're at, that image, that self-image of what you see yourself as, and really appreciating yourself for where you're at, like loving that whole being of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like you talked about earlier, like enjoying the process, loving life where you're at right now, because like you can always say, and you talk about this in the book, that when I lose this 20 pounds, when I get this relationship, when I'm married, then I'll be happy. And it's being happy with who you are now.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And believing in yourself, that belief.
Yeah. Yeah. I go, we're beliefs, habits, and skills. And when it starts with belief, and it's the healthiest with belief. Then the habits and the skills will come together.
Yeah. Like, how are you going to frame that problem?
Yeah.
How are you going to tell yourself what that is?
Mm-hmm.
And then changing the habits. And the habits is like a big thing of creating those new habits, because people could get on track for a while and then they fall off, and they can get on track and maybe they're consistent for like a week. And so then really just changing the bad habit for the new habit and making it attractive. And you talk about making that attractive. What can you do to make it attractive?
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that stuff in the book. Because what I love about it is I don't actually have to give up of my time for people to learn the skill sets. Like, that's super cool to me, to know
Yeah.
that other people can learn the skill sets and I don't even have to give of my time. And that's like, that was a learning lesson that I had to go through.
Yeah.
As I went through my process, because I want to help as many people as possible. I want to get people to that next state, and I want them to consistently enjoy the process and enjoy the transformation.
Yeah.
But I did have my own form of limited thinking, because I'm like, I'm only one person. And as I surrounded myself with other business-minded people, I started learning new lessons on how to really stay in my lane and let others stay in their lane, and us just run together, because we're all looking to create the same influence, all looking to light up the world for the
Yeah.
better.
And I think like in the beginning too, you get that complex of that you've got to save everyone, and you want to save everyone, and you want to be there for everyone and help everyone, but that doesn't help anyone in the process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's starting with yourself first. And
Mhm.
how can I help myself? It's like
Yeah.
putting on the mask, when you're in an airplane and you've got to put it on you first and then go help other people.
100%. Yes.
So learning those skill sets yourself. Hugh asked, what is more draining, the mental preparation or the physical preparation?
So it depends where a person is. So if you were to take someone who if you took someone who is very mentally strong and they physically just couldn't do something, the physical would absolutely destroy them. Even
Yeah.
if they tried, they could hurt themselves, right? So if
Mm,
you took someone, or you can take someone who's very physically strong and mentally they're weak. They're
they
just
could.
very weak individuals.
Yeah.
So great question. And my answer is it depends. It depends where they're at on their journey and what they're looking at. One thing that I always do is I tell people to anchor themselves, and again, that realistic aspect. I'll give you an example. There was this guy, and he was sprinting these hills,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, oh, for you getting ready for a fight, mental all day long. Yeah, if you're a fighter, the physical, we're all physically fit there, so we have to mentally be strong, because if we're not, you're gonna
Yeah.
get ran over in that game. Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
mental. Yeah.
Um, the guy running the hills.
Yeah, so the guy was running these hills, and I knew he just wasn't in shape to be running hills like that. Like, I've been training for so long, I knew it wasn't a good place for him. So I went to ask him. I'm like, "Hey, what are you running hills for? Are you getting ready for a sport, or are you a sprinter?" And he goes, "Oh no, my doctor was telling me that I had high blood pressure." I'm already thinking like, okay, well, that's a nightmare to be sprinting hills with high blood pressure. Okay. And I'm like, so why are you sprinting hills with high blood pressure? And he goes, well, I hear HIIT training helps you burn body fat faster. So I'm doing HIIT training so I can get the body fat off so my blood pressure goes down.
Mm.
Now, in his logic, that made perfect sense. In
Yeah.
my logic, you're asking to die. Like, you're looking to die on a hill. So I told him, like, I just would you like my opinion on this, because I have a background as a trainer. And he's like, yeah, sure. And I go, honestly, it'd probably be better for you to do low intensity for a longer time, just to build a base for yourself before
Yeah.
you start doing any crazy sprints. Like, you weren't even in shape. You weren't in any shape to do
Yeah.
anything. So to go from nothing to all of a sudden going crazy on something, that's detrimental to your body and your organs. So build a foundation and get yourself started in the right direction, and then build up to that next state when your body's ready for it, so you don't hurt yourself. And I don't know if he listened to me. He said he did, and then he stopped doing the sprints. So, but I don't know if he went back the next day and did them. I hope he didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way that it goes. Like we want to get things done when we want to get them done, and sometimes we want to do it way, way too fast.
Yeah. Blowing up a full balloon.
Yeah.
It's gonna pop.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be applied to so many different things, not just like the physical.
Yeah.
Is building that foundation,
Yeah.
making yourself have that stable and firm place, making a plan. What's your plan?
Yeah. Well, that's like when I went from fighter to entrepreneur to actually technically was fighter, dad, entrepreneur. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, the process is always the same. It never changes. So when you're talking about 80% psychology, it's okay,
Yeah.
what are you going to do when your kid is crying and you're
Mm.
tired?
Yeah.
What are you going to do when your wife's telling you didn't put up the dishes on time and
Oh.
your kids are nagging at you and you
Yeah.
have a call that you need to be on in 10 minutes? We're like, what are you going to do? Are you a professional fighter? Like, so all I keep saying in my head, are you a professional fighter? Like, I'm a professional fighter. I'm going to be a professional and primal all at the same time. I'm going to get through this.
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And juggle it. And you
Yes.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what it is. When we believe that we can. All
Mm.
I did with my friend who was going through that process, his own addiction and breaking his addiction, was reminding him who he could be.
Yeah.
He was playing another story. No, he's a professional fighter too. He's not some just drug out, oh, you're a strung out drug addict who can't, oh, you're a loser. Just words. They're just words by themselves. They become real when we hold on to them. And we're just like, oh, this is what I am. No, this is what you're being. It doesn't mean you can't be something else.
Exactly. Like building yourself up
Yeah.
to really who you are. What is the competitive edge in being ourselves?
Yeah. Great question. There's nothing better than being yourself, Hugh. So I could never be a better you than you, and you could never be a better me than me. And I could never be a better Shawnalee than Shawnalee. Like, that's the beauty of the journey. When we go internal and say, who am I and what do I have? And I'll give
Yeah.
an example. So rewinding back to Amazon FBA, when I started, there's certain things, like there's core values that we have that we hold on to no matter what. We just hold on to those core values. And one of my values is integrity. I'll
Mm.
give an example. Some of the things that I could sell would sell out better, but I can't sell certain stuff. Like I
Mm.
gotta sell things that are
Yeah.
healthy for people. And I didn't even know that I was doing it because it was kind of unconscious, to be honest with you. But looking back as I got coaching in the business arena, I realized like, oh, that's why I don't do certain things. So my integrity is the biggest piece to me.
Yes.
If I can't look at myself in the mirror, yeah, it would drive me insane. And so if I can't lay next to myself, it's my integrity. Our core values are just they lock into us, whether we know it or not.
Yeah. I love that. You go through like the fuck it, why not you?
Yeah.
And like the 3x3 plan.
Yeah.
And what are like the 3x3? We're all perfect. I'm just curious as what to say, my friends, that love everyone else and hate themselves.
Huh.
Remind them of their greatness.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder. First, I would say my first question would be, why do you think they hate themselves? And then the next question would be, if you do feel they hate themselves, how can you appropriately ask that question without it coming off as an offense to them? Because when we can appropriately ask the question and they can actually answer it out loud, that makes it real. And when it's real, they can contemplate on it. Just like someone who's never exercised before and says, like, if you say you're not in bad shape, but you've never done anything to prove whether you're in good shape or bad shape, you can't know. So the second you become aware of it, all of a sudden you can't help but to think about it and look at it. So that's what happened to me. When I really took a look at myself and I saw it, I wanted something different. So sometimes people may not love themselves because they don't even know that they're doing it.
Yeah. They might be unconscious to like that internal thought.
Yeah.
And coming back to that self-awareness and then looking in the mirror and looking at what is. And then going through that transformational process of changing their thoughts, their behaviors into who they are. So that their love real towards others.
So it all comes down to what your perspective is. That's what's really interesting. Your perspective plays the role, because since things are of cycles and systems, it's figuring out what is the definition of love, and then what is the definition of love to them, and why is that the definition that it is. Like, I'll give an example. A woman can stay with someone who is not loving them properly, and we'll look at that woman, or a person will look at that woman and say she doesn't know what love is, because love is this, but that's still that other person's definition. So her definition may be different in that moment, but that doesn't mean her moment can't change either. And she goes like, wait a minute, am I really loving myself? Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they think loving themselves is, if I do right by this person, no matter what, that's true love. And that's love for that person in that moment. But that doesn't mean that it can't change.
Exactly. That was my whole story right there. 21 years.
Yeah.
And sacrificed myself.
Yeah.
And it came to that point where I just saw darkness and I saw my future and I didn't like it. And it was just black. There was no hope for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no hope for me in that. And then that's when I really found like, oh, I can change my story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then really learning that journey of loving ourselves and healing ourselves and going through and doing that shadow work and doing that process and then recreating who you are and who you're being.
Yeah. And then having the strength to be able to articulate that.
Yeah.
That's very, very powerful. So I look at it as, you have a process and a story that you went through, and you went through it. You know, sometimes people run from their process and their story. Sometimes they don't even look at it.
Yeah.
And so to me, to love is just to love in the moment, you know, regardless of where they're at on their story. Love them up the best that you can. And if you feel something may be off, give them the necessary insights to move them forward on their journey.
Yeah. Hello, Diana.
Hi, Diana.
Yeah. Just love them in their process and love people where they are at. I think that's a good message is, you know, some people may be on step X and some people might be on step C.
Yeah.
But just letting people where they're at and helping them and reminding them of their greatness. Like every time we talk, you say, hello, superstar.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's what it's about. It's literally pouring that into them and not just pouring it in, but listening close enough so that it's worth pouring in. Like they respect the pouring, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's some place where people aren't even ready to hear that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can lay things on too much and like, here you go, and then just overwhelm them. And so really listening. And we as the listeners have the most important impact. Like we carry all the power as the listener.
Yeah.
And it's how we perceive things.
That's an interesting way of putting it. I like that. We carry all the power as the listener. Huh.
Yeah.
Might write something on that one, Shawnalee. I do agree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe writing. I might be in the writing process,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's all that I'll share on that little journey. But
Yeah.
it started to flow, and we did talk about that. But
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. I love how you also talk about we earn what we need to learn, and going through that whole process of recreating your environment, loving your authentic self. And I think that you go through very well in the book is loving your authentic self,
Yeah.
loving all pieces of you, and everywhere that you've been through that journey.
Yeah. Amen. And it's interesting because our authentic self can actually change. You know,
Yeah.
I went from the way that I write now is more transparent than it was before. And transparency was always one of my core values, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I wasn't as transparent because I didn't think people wanted to hear it.
Mm.
And then I started realizing I'm like, oh crap, like they think I'm this badass that is not human. And I'm just as human as anybody. like so
Yeah.
so it really kind of takes the excuses away, essentially. Because we
Mm.
think like, well, you're able to wake up at 4 a.m. and go jogging. Like, you think I like that shit? Like, you think like I was just born this way?
Yeah.
No, not even a little bit. Here, let me start sharing this. So I start sharing like, look, the struggle is real. The struggle of life is real. It's a very real thing. But we
Yeah.
get the choice of how we're going to be presented and how we're going to act within the struggle of life. Like if I want to wake up at 4 a.m. because I want to get to a certain result, then I'm going to do that. If I
Yeah.
need to do hill sprints for a certain amount of time so I have the cardio and the shape to be able to fight with the best in the world, then I'm going to do that. If I have to listen to hours and hours of tape about how entrepreneurship works and how to psychologically help a person grow and stretch, then I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Creating that momentum, feeding what you focus on grows.
Yes, every time.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I love how also you talk about do it for you and don't lose your identity in the process. Because
Yeah.
people can lose that
Yeah.
and who they are and reminding themselves of who they are. And then you have to like get to that point, like who's going to do this for you? You have to do that for yourself. Who's going to wake you up and take this to you to this journey that you want to create and what it is you want to create for yourself. So getting like really clear on your goals and what it is that you want to create.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. I actually tried fighting as a fighter for my kid. You
Mm.
know, I wanted to be a fighter for my kid and I couldn't do it for that. Of all things, you know, cuz we talk about what our why is. And we all have whys, but
Yeah.
it's the why are we doing it? And when I was a fighter, I fought because I wanted to fight. Then when my kid came in, I wanted to fight for my kid and it was different cuz I realized I don't want to have to fight for my kid. I want to be able to protect my kid. I wasn't a fighter in that aspect anymore. I actually wanted to keep myself safe. I didn't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it until I got into the cage. Like I'm in the cage and I'm worried about getting hurt because I got to take care of my kid.
Mm.
And that's when I'm like, oh, I'm a different protector now. I'm not the same. I'm different. Thank God I had years and years of fighting training. So my instincts kind of took over at that point. But again, it's you have to do things for you every single time. And I wanted to be a protector for my kid and being a protector wasn't going out, being a professional fighter and getting paid for it. It was a different game.
Yeah, different game. My why has become my how. How can I use this experience to inspire others? Yeah.
Yeah. Amen to that. That's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. When you can use that, take something that you have been through and help others through it and just inspire people.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
You're the best guide on the planet for
Yeah.
Hugh.
Yeah. Do you hear that, Hugh? Here. Ooh. In the last part of your book, it talks about the journal, creating a judgment-free zone, observation, understand, revelation, needs assessment, awareness, and life. I think one of the things too is like assessing where you're at and going back and taking that radical self-responsibility, looking at where you're at. And if it's not where you want to be, adjusting course, journaling about it, taking that next step. What is it that I need to do? What is it do I need to change today? And I love you can go back to that moment. What am I doing in this moment?
Yeah.
Who am I creating myself to be? Because we talk about how we're creators.
Yeah, 100%. We're super cool because, again, I was actually learning about who I was, as I went through the journey.
Yeah.
And there were some things that I did that were so second nature, I never thought to explain it. Like, I'm like, well, yeah, doesn't everybody do that?
No.
So I'm kind of like I am a big optimist. Like, I see an opportunity in everything. So I'll be like, I'm in shit. Like, all right, now we can get out of it. And you're like, ooh, I just won. Yes, now we can celebrate. Like, there's always an opportunity somewhere. We just need to find it. So I'm always looking for wherever the opportunity is.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. Finding it is what is that next step, and having your own back and listening to that self-talk.
Yeah.
And that mindset, really working on that mind every day, doing your I ams, your declarations. Who am I declaring myself to be?
Yep. It's all muscle. Like, they're all their own form of muscle. And the more you work them, the stronger they get.
Yeah. Yeah. What you focus on grows.
Yes.
And and I love your declaration as who you declare yourself to be is you're the fighter that fights for you.
Yep.
I've heard you say that a few times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So listen.
Yeah. I love it. No, I love it. That's what it's about ultimately. And so in my group, I say I am unstoppable, whereas you are unstoppable. Right?
Yeah.
Whether we have to go around it, under it, over it, through it, whatever we have to do, we'll figure it out. We just keep moving forward. Yeah. And we learn the lessons along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else that you want to leave with?
No, I 100% appreciate you having me on. And
Yeah.
I'll say, ultimately, if you like my energy, if you like what I'm about, I do have a group called Mind Body Business Mastery. So it's my Facebook group. So if you want to join, please feel free to send a message my way. I always like connecting with new people. Nothing in life has defeated us yet. Amen. That's
Amen.
what's up to you. And Shawnalee, appreciate you as always. Seeing you move through your journey is fun. It's really fun. And seeing the process and seeing not only as you go through it, knowing that everything we do has a ripple effect, affects everyone around us.
It
And I
does.
look at how much my kids love me. It feels nice. And I saw you take a picture of your daughter and you were sharing about how proud of a mom you were. And it doesn't get any better than that, just going through life and giving your absolute best. Give your best, stretch yourself, love one another, and watch your life fill with miracles, experiences, and a little luck along the way.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Loving life and loving, what you do. Oh, yes. Come join the tribe of giants. We need you in our tribe.
Awesome. All right,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. If you want to go pick up a copy of this, Awaken the Superhero in You, and remind yourself of who you are.
The superstars.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Superstar. Thank you.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
good night.